I haven't talked about Erika Kirk in terms of her involvement with what's been going on pre and post Charlie's demise. But all these little stories start popping up that lead me to believe that A, she wasn't just a honeypot, which I 1,000% believe she was. I also believe that she's intelligence. I believe that she was put in the position that she's in because her family's involved in intelligence and because she's directly involved. And when someone says, well, how do you know that? How can you be so sure? Well, this is how I can be sure.
We have 5 major threats that make our grid extremely vulnerable that we've presented to congressional officials. 1 being cyber, 2 being hackers, 3 being physical threats, 4th one is solar EMP, and the 5th one is man-made EMP. So the concern that we have is that we put out this critical information, and when we go over this risk analysis, they hear what we're saying, but they don't want to take action.
Well, there are 18 critical infrastructures in the United States: food, water, transportation, communications, etc. All 17 of the others depend on electricity.
So Erika Kirk was working for intelligence this past decade. This video clip apparently is from either 2013 or 2014. You know, once you're a part of it, you don't leave it. It's always a part of you. And the fact that she has this in her resume, the fact that she has this in her portfolio, I mean, again, this is central casting. This is what it is. Very few people ever question how they get where they get. Now, I've often said that Charlie was a talent, and he was always going to probably make something of himself. You know, he's also very tall. You know, Charlie's about 6'5", I believe. And again, he had a talent. I called him the greatest grifter I ever saw because he knew how to sell his organization very well. Now, it's possible he was a true believer. I give him that much. But what I also know is that he was also extremely naive, thinking that all of these benevolent contributors to his organization were doing it because it was all about his ability, or was it because they wanted him to serve a greater corporate purpose? Well, they did. And around the time that he decided that he was looking for a significant other and wanted to have a family, they decided to set him up. And they set him up. The type of woman that probably was, you know, not just the type of woman that he would want, but a lot of others would too. And in this case, Charlie clearly did not understand what he was involved in until he did. And once he understood it, he kind of understood what could happen. And that's what Candace has constantly been pointing out. She never loses sight of the fact that Charlie had mentioned time and again, yeah, there's a good chance that they're going to get rid of me. So when you wonder why, it seems like Erika Kirk is a very dishonest, non-believable performance artist. It's because she's intelligence. She's playing a part. She did her job, and now she's doing it on behalf of Israel and the State Department. The problem is that she's a shitty actress, and she's not very convincing. That doesn't mean that she's not in it for the long haul to play ball. And as you can see here, she's clearly in it to play ball.
If our grid goes down, you can't cook, you're not going to heat anything, you can't run any of your medical supplies, you can't talk on your phone, you can't take money out of a bank, and we turn into total chaos.
If this happens, the system stops.
If a transformer is taken down, we have to order it from Germany or China. It's going to take a year.
up till recently, there were no comprehensive protective solutions available.
We know what the solutions are. They're not expensive. They're not difficult to employ. We just need the political will to do it and the follow through on the part of the electric utilities to get it done.
The White House is protected from an EMP. The Congress and the CIA and the NSA, all of the areas that need to function in the government are protected. So why can't we be protected?
So as you can see, this is sort of the preempt stages many years ago of data centers and tracking everybody's information. We don't have enough intelligence, so we need more of it. And it's not like Erika is some brainiac who's, an electrical engineer, somebody who fully understands what's going on. She's just playing a role, which is why it's very easy to see why somebody gets themselves caught up in this world. They're just not going to ask questions. They're just going to go along because that's what you do. Again, she's playing a role.
Around some of these facilities, you don't have much more than a chain link fence to keep people out. Now that seems absurd to me.
I think it is absurd when we now know that attack on as few as 9 grid substations could bring down all 3 major interconnections for the United States grid.
If the power goes out, you get the generator, and if that goes out, you get another one. There's never been a plan for what happens after that.
The director of the National Security Agency, Admiral Rogers, came out and said it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when.
Now, when you see images like this, and images of attacks, exploding devices, which I think is, What do you think this represents? Well, the one thing we have learned over the past 2 years plus, most things are false flags. In the end, it's all about how can I get my next government contract on as part of the military-industrial complex, as part of intelligence. Well, scare the shit out of people, convince them that they need more security, and they will give up more liberty. That's what's happening here. And in the case of Erika Kirk, like I said, just casually showing up in intelligence videos from over a decade ago, constantly dabbing her eyes with tons of gold on her hands. This is the real story here. Because no matter how hard they try to sell this idea that some random person showed up one day at a rally and just shot Charlie Kirk, rather than maybe they kind of had Charlie under their thumb forever, and the second he tried to break away, they decided, can't have that. Turning Point USA and what it does for congregating the masses, particularly the youth, to the polls. No, we can't have that. Why do you think AOC is getting propped up as hard as she is, and she's forming a political identity that jives with the corporate state on the Democratic side? Because the belief is AOC is going to be able to duplicate what Charlie Kirk was able to do for the GOP. Congregate the masses, particularly the youth. Maybe she'll have some luck. Who knows? But the second that you get out of line is the second that you can be removed. And the more our system shakes at its foundation and starts to fall apart, the more these stories will come about. That's why public executions, again, as we bring the conversation full circle for the evening, public executions like that of Renee Good will simply become more commonplace because people are just far too ready, willing, and able to accept them. The systemic takeover of the state. That's where we're headed. So does this surprise anybody? That she shows up in these videos for intelligence, for the CIA and the NSA? No. I know there are people who go, oh my God, I wouldn't expect anything less than this. And we are not going to stop talking about this. Because as I said, this is the key. There are millions of people out there who are convinced that something is really wrong with the state of Israel, and maybe, just maybe, even if it's only for the purpose of dismantling the Zionist state, that we lock arms with somebody like a Charlie Kirk. It's still important enough to put our differences aside and do it. And of course, there's always more layers to the story, and we will continue to address them going forward. But this video should leave no doubt at all as to who Erika Kirk is and what she represented and the role that she played. Just as Janice pointed out, you know, kind of like Candace Owens going after the First Lady of France. Well, this is kind of the same situation here now, isn't it? I haven't seen any pictures of Erika pregnant. Not once. In fact, you would think some of that would probably come out just to kind of reassure the public that maybe this isn't just one big setup all along. But the more we see it, the more we're realizing, yeah, we've been put on forever. It's a scam. It's a setup. All of it. Now, whether or not we're living in a simulation, this much I do know. The government that is the United States would like us to believe that we are. Because in so many ways, it is. It is a simulation. Our lives may not be, but our lives within this country, they most certainly are. Until you actually see it for what it really is. When you get distracted by stories that have no implication whatsoever on the future of this country, don't waste time. And let me tell you, when you awake to the realities of what we're living through, it's actually scary, but it's actually very cathartic at the same time. Because in the future, you won't be fooled again. You'll understand what you're witnessing ahead of time. That's why when AOC makes her statement about the anti-Semitic protesting, you know that there's got to be more to it. So you don't just take it at face value. You dig in and unearth what is behind the curtain. Why is she doing that? What is she missing? It's the Zionist state. It's the State Department. And Erika Kirk is a part of it.